asked for it. Not really, actually, but you kind of asked for it.
What am I doing, you ask? This is the Captain Anarchy life story. Dark side of the strip. Everything from HP to Revlon Red and everything in between. It's a long one, it's a feat, and I need more stuff for the Captain Anarchy playlist anyways. So, yeah, this is DontWatchMojo presents Captain Anarchy Dark Side of the Strip. Enjoy.
HP was too young and a little too late to the punk game to get brought up to the big time, and all the smaller clubs didn't want to have punk anymore because they got tired of the cops coming, the fire marshal coming, and everything getting smashed every weekend, and kids ending up in ambulances and stuff. We had nowhere to play, and then the goth band, me and my partner had a falling out, and we were too ahead of our time for the goth game. Otherwise, we could have been the next Nine Inch Nails or whatever before there was a Nine Inch Nails or Marilyn Manson. So that didn't work out.
What year was this?
83 to 89, more or less.
Pretty Hate Machine came out in 87, and their song Head Like a Hole was the movie Class of 1999. You know, that post-apocalyptic high school movie?
Maybe.
It has the robot teachers in it.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the only way I could get Cody Cup in the school was to promise him free drugs. Now he wants to die.
What's going on?
I was trying to get my medieval metal band together all through the 80s and 90s, but just couldn't seem to solidify the lineup, and so I joined Migrain instead, and I ran with that, and I was taking it really seriously, and, you know, I was trying to back off from the partying and all that, but those guys went headlong into the party.
Don't they know the order of shit? You get famous first, then you become a heroin addict. Come on, guys.
And it's like the opposite of Pickles, the drummer, who was in like a Guns N' Roses style glam metal band.
They were known as Snakes and Barrels, a tough group of rock thugs from the wrong side of the tracks.
And then, when that didn't work out because of the drugs, ended up joining Death Clock and being a speed metal guy.
Anything less would be uncivilized.
Suffice it to say, we were there back in the day, helping build the scene.
Welcome to a brand new
Captain Marcus McCunwell and crew, frequent privateers of the Royal Crown, also known on the high seas as Captain Anarchy. You and your crew stand accused of treason on the high seas against the American colonies. How do you plead for you and your crew, sir?
So basically, I was talking about how the 80s punk rock, and along with that came, you know, goth and death rock and horror punk, which you gotta understand, my first album that I ever got when I was a kid was Kiss Alive, 1975. And when Kiss was kind of new and the hot thing, and everybody liked Kiss, not kids, it was before they became like a comic book shock rock kids band with these catchy, simple songs. People try to say they were satanic and Kiss meant Kings and Satan service. Other people said, no, it means keep it simple, stupid. Because if you want to be famous, just keep the songs real simple and basic and catchy that everyone can relate to. And that's where it was at. And of course, along with that, you know, I liked all the bands of the day.
I mean, come on.
When I was a little kid, I used to ride around with my mom in the car, and the stuff that was playing on the radio, you know, what became glitter rock, and offshoots of glitter rock. It was Rod Stewart, Sweet, Cheap Trick, and Elton John when he was kind of glitter rock, doing Benny and the Jets, and also the dirty rock and roll, like Aerosmith and, you know, the Rolling Stones. But I also liked, like, you know, some sort of prog rock, you know, Pink Floyd and...
Until we sound like Pink Floyd.
My uncle, Victor, was on the head of the game musically. And so in 77, 78, specifically got me and my next door neighbor, Don Secchi, a.k.a. Dawn of the Dead, who became the bass player for my old punk band, HP, back then known as Hated Principles. Got us into new wave, and our drummer Jose Kid Chaos, you know, and other kids from the neighborhood. At the time, Don's older brother Katz, who a lot of people know as Gorg Katz, because later on he was in a band called Organized Dorks. He just actually passed away. Everybody knew him. He was like a legend in the punk and goth scene and whatnot. That was Don's older brother. He was like the older brother on the block. I got the word from our friend Derek, a.k.a. Deza Idol. Derek Dykeman messaged me late at night to let me know that Don had reached out to him and let him know that Katz passed away. I don't know how old he was, late 50s, I want to say pushing 60 or something maybe, because I know he was probably at least 5 or 6 years older than me.
But I'm the oldest, the matriarch, if you will.
People loved Katz, you know, he could be a really nice guy, and he was well respected, and people loved him in all the different scenes. When we were around other people, Katz would be kind of like, as far as you know, he'd kind of bust my balls.
Are you breaking my butt?
And in the end, we were kind of like frenemies. Once he moved away from the west side, you know, I basically kind of lost contact with him. The only time we ever talked was if we saw each other at a gig now and then, or goth club. And sometimes he'd be bagging on me to our friends in common. Come and go, yeah, as soon as you walked away, all he did was start bagging on you. I told him I just didn't want to hear it.
Nag, 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 nag.
People don't realize this, but Katz would come over to my house and knock on my door and go, hey, what are you doing? And I'd be like, no, I got this new album. You got any blank cassettes? Yeah, okay, you're going to love it. Grab a cassette and cruise over and bring your beers if you want or whatever. And so I'd cruise over, you know, and we'd hang out and he'd record some stuff for me and we got along. You want something to eat? I was thinking about asking my mom to make some curry or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Even his mom taught me how to make the Japanese curry. I still make it all the time. I love it.
Hell yeah, be buddies about shit.
You know, he always had a really bad diet, and as of late, I guess, from what I heard, he was like on a diet of like waking up and eating like 5 tamales for breakfast and downing energy drinks. We figured that he took a nap and passed in his sleep. It's believed that he had a heart attack in his sleep. He had some weight issues. He loved Okie dogs, pastrami burritos. And he and I always didn't see eye to eye on things, and we always didn't get along the best, but that's because we were like family.
It makes a fool of our family without my help.
And when other people were around, or if I wasn't there, but he was talking about me to other people, or it was almost like he was Nathan Explosion from Death Clock, and I was Roxo the Clown or whatever. Oh, Roxo. Oh, the captain, yeah, he's a fucking clown. Well, when I was like, I don't know, I guess I was 18 or 19, I was doing donuts in the cul-de-sac at the end of our street, and the power steering cut off, the whole engine cut off, and the power steering wasn't working. And so I lost complete control of the car, and the car is cruising and pumping the brake, and the brake's not stopping, and the car is headed straight for Katz's brand new Toyota pickup truck that has like a custom paint job, and I could not stop my car from colliding into the back of his truck that was parked on the street.
Oh my.
Knocked his pickup truck up onto the grass and the sidewalk. I couldn't believe he didn't beat the shit out of me right then and there. You fucking idiot! There was a number of dumb things that I said and did that he probably would have been justified to punch me in the face, you know, but he never did because he was my next door neighbor and
Anything less would be uncivilized.
we had a lot of adventures together. We were there for the infamous Exploited riot at the Olympic Auditorium in 1984. I think me and Don were throwing bottles at the cops. I don't remember. With the crowd, I don't remember. Katz got, because he was there taking pictures of the bands, he had his pro camera, and he got pictures of the cops running down the street with their batons busting the windows out of all the like factories and businesses along there so that the punks would get blamed for it.
Chaos is a ladder.
Meanwhile, the other cops with the riot gear are like kicking the shit out of the punks, and the punks are throwing rocks and bottles at them and fighting it out, duking it out with them, so that way it wouldn't look bad on the police department, like, oh, the cops just came and discriminated against the punks and beat them all up and arrested them. Instead, they could say, like, well, look, the punks busted all the windows out of all the businesses and factories across the street. No, it wasn't the punks. Katz literally had the proof. We were standing there watching cops running down the street with the punks breaking windows and businesses. We jumped in his car and we got the fuck out of there.
And then what happened?
Katz also stuck up for me. One occasion in particular was when my grandfather passed away from a heart attack in 1985 on Halloween. Every year we put these fake tombstones on our front lawn that said like Frankenstein, Dracula, or whatever. And I hadn't seen my dad in years. I mean, my parents got divorced when I was like 8 years old. I didn't see him for several years. When I was around 11 years old, I spent a little time with him here and there. We'd tool around in his Porsche, go to his TV repair business on Pico and Rancho Park that he used to have back then. And then I didn't see him for a few years. And I got into punk rock. He shows up on Halloween because he got the call that my grandpa died. He's like drunk and high out of his mind, tripping. The thing about my dad is that he was an Italian guy and he went by the nickname of Chino. He was half Italian and half German.
Too bad your mom wasn't Japanese, because that would mean you're actually all the Axis powers.
Well, instead I had the next door neighbors that were, you know, like my brothers from another mother, being, you know, Katz and Dawn of the Dead.
Back to your positive cat story.
My dad shows up on Halloween afternoon because he got the call that my grandpa passed away from a heart attack at the early age of 56 years old. And he like flipped out. He started accusing me and my friends of having written my grandfather's name on one of the fake tombstone decorations on the front yard, which was
bullshit.
No one did anything like that whatsoever. You know, hallucinating or something, you know, or just seeing it as an excuse to have a problem with me because he didn't like the way that I looked, and grabbed me by the collar, you know, and I'm backing away from him down the street, all the way down to the cul-de-sac. Katz had his front door open like he tended to do, was kicking back in his house, and he saw this going on. And he came outside and picked up a brick, and he had it in his hand behind his back, and he walked up on us, and he was going to clock my dad in the head with the brick. But he didn't have to, because my mom came out there and got in between me and my dad, and my mom just looked at my dad and said,
"You know what? I've put on weight and I'm a lot bigger than you now, and I'm not afraid of you anymore, and if you put your hands on the kid one more time, I'm going to beat the crap out of you, and then I'm going to sit on you until the cops come." And,
that was that. My dad took off.
And then what happened?
We kind of discovered punk on our own.
Oh, you little new wave dudes gotta get into punk.
Yeah, so there was a lot of girls that took us under their wing and kind of schooled us in punk rock and cut our hair and clothing and paraphernalia. There was Minnie and Renee. There was also Dana and Mirka. And there was Tequila Mockingbird. She was the one from Hollywood. You know, showed us around Hollywood and introduced us to everyone and turned us on to all the cool bands and helped us get into shows.
And then what happened?
One notable guy was our friend Eric McVeigh, rest in peace. He passed away decades ago, a.k.a. Shooter, who later was actually in HRP, the Hollywood Rat Patrol punk rock gang. At one point, I got kicked out of my house for coming home with a shaved head, and I was late coming home smelling like beer from I went to go, I don't know, saw Black Flag at the whiskey that night or something. My mom flipped out and kicked me out of the house, and Eric was living in a squat, the infamous Sarah Street squat in North Hollywood, which was a house that was being foreclosed on because the owner had passed away, and her son was squatting in the guest house in the back with he was like a hippie, heavy metal rocker type guy, sort of hippie-ish though, with he had some young girlfriend, like a 15-year-old runaway rocker chick or whatever that was like living with him there back there drinking. And
that thing you pulled in the calf today was pretty severe.
Yeah, well, the extreme always seems to make an impression.
And he let the punks live in the house up front. He was maintaining the electric bill. There was no gas, and we were roughing it with a bunch of other punks or whatever, and we spent a lot of days down on Melrose or partying like on Hollywood Boulevard at the abandoned Hotel Hell.
Welcome to your doom.
So you want me to tell you the story of my life?
Like I said, that's what I do. I interview people. I'm a collector of lives.
And at that time, I remember Katz used to make fun of us because he was like into classical music and headed towards like the chess club nerd crowd.
All I remember is I woke up 3 days later.
And what happened in those 3 days?
Very shortly thereafter, he kind of saw the light and followed suit along with us into the punk scene.
Chaos is a ladder.
And then we developed our band, The Principles, and started doing recordings and playing support slots for all the major punk bands like Circle One and Sin 34 and Shattered Faith and Dr. No and RKL.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
So lots come to waste. Doesn't always stop. So we can listen to. Government doesn't care about you. Think they really definitely don't. They put it inside your food. Cancer versus all some other. You shove us life from one place to another.
Touring up and down the coast, we would play at infamous venues like Ruthie's Inn in Berkeley, and in San Francisco at the Mabuhay Gardens and on Broadway with bands like Fang and Sado Nation, and we even played up there with the Circle Jerks. And down in LA, we would also play a lot of backyard parties all over town in general, but largely on the west side and in Dogtown. And we teamed up sometimes with bands like Chaotic Noise, who later became XL. We also played a lot of shows at West Side clubs such as the Club 88 and the Music Machine, venues like that. And we played at the legendary Massive Federal Building Rally in Westwood alongside our brother band Stukas Over Bedrock, opening up for Red Scare and a slew of other bigger name, well-known punk bands of the day. Oftentimes as the direct support slot band for groups like The Mentors, Bad Religion, and Social Distortion before they got really big.
Anything less would be uncivilized.
We aren't old school. We literally helped them build the fucking school to begin with.
Oh, yeah!
And Katz did like all of our graphics, him and Don.
Oh, my.
Meanwhile, we forged forward with our band. We'd be playing backyard parties, and I'd drop acid and be flipping out and unable to perform. And they'd ask me if I wanted to go to a gig with them, and then they'd have to wait for hours for me to get ready. And late for recording studio sessions, too high, too drunk, and my voice is blown out from the night before to be able to competently record my vocals. So we're just wasting time doing take after take after take, and they're going, dude, why did you party last night? Your voice sounds like shit. And later on down the line, when the band fell apart after 87, when Katz was the one that actually put out our album.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Because the various members in the bands that were contributing to the music writing, we were pulling away from each other in different directions by then. Like me and Mick Wicked and Kid Chaos, we wanted to play metal and power metal and thrash metal, epic metal, and we wanted to sing about medieval themed stuff. Hence, we were already developing the concept of Devil's Alley, whereas like Don, Katz's brother Don of the Dead, he wanted to focus on just staying a old school punk type band.
Whatever.
But Katz put our album out actually, on vinyl. He continued on with the name, doing like DB, grindcore, crush punk, DIY raw punk type stuff. I was cool with that as long as it always featured at least one original member, either his brother Don on the bass or, Jose on the drums, or, he even guested me on the vocals a few times. And I was saying that sometimes if Jose couldn't do the drums on some tracks, he would have Big Bear Frappier, formerly of the Rim Pest, one of the early West Side punk bands that preceded us. They were actually preceded by the Weasels, who were famous for the Vito and the Regulator, fatal mistake. The Weasels came first, then the Rim Pest, then my band HP Hated Principles.
And then what happened?
So when I was in high school, I was taking advanced English and history classes because I was bored as hell.
Oh, my.
After taking the IQ test, I was just like a point or two below being tossed into the category and
Welcome
part of,
to
like,
your
the
doom.
chess club. But the person who gave me the IQ test at the school or whatever said, like, you're obviously a lot smarter than a lot of kids. You're not a genius per se or anything like that. There's no test to evaluate that, obviously. There's just an IQ test that tests you academically. So we're going to recommend that you be in advanced history classes, like college, low classes. And I was like, well, yeah, that sounds great, because junior high school just felt like a rerun of high school. Only they wanted you to remember, like, trivial details, in my opinion. I mean, come on. I like to use this example. Columbus discovered America in 1492. In high school, they want you to tell them the month and the day. Who cares? And it's bullshit anyways, because we now know that Columbus didn't discover America anyways. The Vikings did, like, 500 years before that.
You're admitted to a mistake. What would I...
It felt like they just wanted you to remember more details about
Bullshit. Bullshit. Bullshit.
And so it was boring to me, and I was getting into punk rock, hooking up with girls for the first time in my life, and, I was playing in a band. And making new friends on the West Side, making friends in Hollywood. Being a kid and growing up and finding myself, because...
Consider the life of a teenager. Huh? You have parents and teachers telling you what to do. You have movies, magazines, and TV telling you what to do, but you know what you have to do. Huh? Your job, your purpose is to get accepted, get a cute girlfriend, and to think up something great to do for the rest of your life.
Early teens are your developmental years that ultimately decide who you end up growing up to be as an adult. So I was doing that, acing those classes without even really trying. And after a while, I started deciding that why do I need to be an A student?
Who fucking cares?
So I started screwing off and ditching school more, partying, flaking out on my homework. And my grades went from A's down to B's, down to C's. Sometimes I would catch a D or an F here and there, and I didn't care. And I was supposed to graduate class in 1985. In 1984, I was in 11th grade, and I was friends with the government class teacher, like this really hot chick, and we used to talk all the time about political stuff and whatnot, and she might have just been being friendly, but she seemed a little more than friendly, you know what I mean? And I knew that when I went to 12th grade that they were going to force me to take government class, and she was going to be my teacher, because she was the only one that taught government at the school. And being an anarcho-punk, I knew that she and I were going to end up butting heads, and she was going to end up cleaning my guts and flunking.
That thing you pulled in the calf today was pretty severe.
Yeah, well, the extreme always seems to make an impression.
And I didn't want it to go that way because I liked her. She seemed to like me. We got along great.
Anything less would be uncivilized.
So, at the end of 11th grade, we let my band play at the high school twice. We played once out on the back basketball courts, and only a word. You know, that went well. I don't think they pulled the plug on us that time. We actually were even able to bring along our brothers and students over Bedrock, even though they were too old to be on a high school campus. The second time that they let us play in the front yard of the school. One of our band members, Danny Tunick, he lived with his parents right across the street.
Nice.
Chain link fence around the school. And we were over his house getting ready, and the whole band went over there and started warming up. So I come skanking across the street, and then we play our set, and at the end of the set, we go into our cover of Loathing, and I had changed the lyrics all up and made it into, like, naughty lyrics with foul language and whatnot, and the crowd's going nuts, the kids are going crazy, there's a mosh pit going on, all that. Shit.
Power up.
And the principal, he pulls the cord on us and tells me to go see my counselor, tells me that I'm going to be getting suspended on the week of finals, so that I wouldn't be able to take my finals, and I would flunk out of one or more classes, because he knew that I had screwed around the last couple years, and they had already told me that if I flunked one class in 12th grade, that I would have to repeat 12th grade all over again. And I knew the government was going to be that class. Come on! He told me to go to my counselor's office. I'm like, I'm not going to my counselor's office. I'm going to Mr. Neeson's office. Fine, go to Neeson's office then.
Yeah.
Mr. Bash, I forget what his first name was, but I'm sure he would have been a fucking Trump follower by today's standards or whatever people go around. Right-wing conservative, neo-Nazi, authoritarian figure.
Excuse me, what did you say?
I didn't stutter. And I was, livid. Hey, man, eat a couple of my special magic cookies.
Stars are pretty, aren't they?
So I ate a couple pot cookies, drank the milk, listened to the Doors, and then we talked about it, and he's like, oh, man, we're gonna, go around right now to, all of your teachers, and we're gonna make a deal for you to come in after school and take your finals. Screw Mr. Bash. That way you'll get to take your finals, and as long as you ace them, then you will have passed 11th grade, and you can move on. Jerry Neeson was a great dude. He was a great counselor.
Men have feelings too.
You know what the name of that hippie teacher's name was in Beavis and Butthead?
No.
Elliot Van Driessen. Very similar to the teacher you have.
Yeah, it's too funny, right?
Today, I want to show you how to realign your mind-body energies through simple meditation, okay?
We did. We went around, we talked to all my teachers. They were all cool with it. They'll let me take my 11th grade finals after school. I passed all the tests, and then I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to take 12th grade. So I took a California proficiency exam test to prove that I knew everything that I needed to know to be able to just skip 12th grade and go to college. And that was that. I aced it. The following year, in 1985, instead of going to 12th grade, I was going to West LA College for about the first 6 months with my then friend Jim Watkins, who I also was studying Taekwondo, Korean Kung Fu, and...
Chinese. The Korean is the most perfect creature ever to sanctify the earth with the imprint of his foot.
So we were studying those 3 styles right down the street from the high school. Our master was like an 8th degree black belt from Korea. He's been trained since he was like 3 years old. What? The guys tried to jump him in an elevator. He beat the shit out of all 4 of them, and he's the only one that walked out. True story.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it!
And mostly just taking like philosophy and film and English and creative writing.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
We wanted to be novelists. We wanted to write medieval fantasy novels, science fiction novels, and horror novels. And we were going to co-write them. We were already working on a few. And we wanted to maybe be screenwriters. But after 6 months at West LA College, it became apparent that while we're in college, we wanted to also meet girls. And we weren't meeting any girls at West LA College. At the time, it was basically a predominantly black college at the time. The black girls weren't really interested in us.
You must have thought it was White Boy Day.
There weren't any white girls or other girls of color or anything like that that were our age around that were interested because we were punk rock guys. So we transferred to Santa Monica College. There were lots of like new wave and punk and goth type girls who went to that college of all different colors.
Nice.
I actually ended up on the dean's honor roll because I got A+ in every class that I took.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
I took beginner and intermediate voice lessons there and finally learned how to actually properly sing. My biggest regret was not taking guitar and not taking music theory. And I'd had some guitar classes in high school, so I sort of knew and whatnot, and I actually got much better at guitar and bass on my own. Just by the end of the 80s, I was able to play bass pretty solidly and sing while I was doing it with a wireless headphone mic, which I did in my electronic goth band Heckflower. And obviously, you know, because I was a writer, I was able to write lyrics. Especially in the early years, there were no other bands around that did that kind of music, except for Big Black. Like, we were just doing what we did, you know, and, you know, just being totally creative and unique, and we were opening up for, you know, the other goth and death rock bands of the day, like
In a place called heaven, the days are such a bore.
Ex-Photo.
If I never fall in love again, it'll be too soon.
They were like the only other local band that was sort of like us because they actually had like a PC or a laptop or whatever on the stage that they used, like or an early computer or whatever that they used to do some of their
bullshit.
At first, we didn't even know about Big Black. We also put on our own clubs. We played with like Death Ride 69. That we did on Jefferson Boulevard, west of La Cienega, and we actually had Gwar headline one time at our club. Really? Yeah, the first time that Gwar ever came to LA to play, we went and saw him. I think it was, I want to say, oh God, where was it? The Anti-Club or somewhere like that. And they got shut down after the third song as soon as they cut the guy's head off. And every single time, you know, the MC or the DJ would just cut their sound and just come on the mic and say, okay, that was Gwar. Thank you very much. Good night. And so we approached them and said, hey, man, we have a huge venue with a gigantic stage, and we do this golf club. We get a few hundred people every week or whatever, and we would love to have you guys headline. Yeah, sure, and we'll give you a cut of the door or whatever, and we'll let you do your whole set. So we just went in and we warned the club what it was going to be like, and we covered everything up with plastic, and the place was packed that night, and it was a 3-level club. So we were on the ground floor. The second floor had a bar and stuff. There was nothing going on up there. They basically had that just like closed for the night. And there was a door up there that went to the staircase that led you up to the 3rd floor, and they had a security guard guarding that door. Because the 3rd floor club was a black transsexual disco night. Yeah, and they had their own separate entrance. There was a fire staircase. So me and Dawn of the Dead decide to go up to the 3rd floor. We go talk to the security guard. He lets us go up to the 3rd floor club, right? We go in there, and they're playing, like, you know, Dawn of Summer and, you know, all this, like, you know, disco stuff. And we come in there, like, all crazy punk and gothed out or whatever. And, like, all the black trainers are like, oh, my God. They wanted to know about what we had going on downstairs, so we told them about Gwar. And there's a small pocket of them, group of them. They were like, oh, can we come down and check it out real quick? I'm like, yeah, let me talk to the security guard. You guys come down as our guests and shit. So we took a little crowd of them down there, and Gwar's on stage playing when we bring him down there. And these black tranny disco people are like, flipping out. Oh my God, he's squirting a giant dick full of milk all over everywhere. I want to get squirted. I want to get squirted. They got written up in the LA Weekly and all that.
Really?
Yeah, we literally gave Gwar their best show and their only full set show on their very first tour to Los Angeles. And then we partied with them in their tour bus afterwards, and they were cool as fuck, dude. We totally, like, went in their tour bus and got drunk and smoked weed and did a bunch of hardcore partyables. And we actually made a deal with them that the next time they came back to town, because they were into LARPing. Yeah, man, you know what, man? We sort of, like, we were, like, kind of like the, you know, some of the first LARPers that we were aware of, you know, on the west side or in the main part of LA right here, you know? Like, we were a few years younger when we were in our early teens, when we started in our preteen years and then our early teens, we had already taken, like, PVC plumbing pipe, put caps on it and wrapped it with black tape and whatever, and wrapped it in foam with duct tape and then stretched socks over it and taped the socks on there and made our own weapons. And we had, like, every medieval weapon you could think of, and there would be about a group of 10 of us that would go to Rancho Park, like, on a Saturday afternoon, and 5 of us would go one way and 5 of us would go the other. We'd end up meeting up somewhere in the park and having battles, and we would ambush each other and stuff like that. We'd split our groups into 2, like, hey, you 2 go that way, and you 3 hide up in the tree and jump down when the other guys come, and all that. I mean, we were doing LARPing before LARPing was a thing. It wasn't even called LARP back then, you know? We weren't aware of anyone else that was doing it. We knew about the SCA, and we had an older friend, Bill, who had kendo sticks, and, you know, we used to spar with him with kendo sticks. He taught us kendo, and he took us to a couple SCA practices at Sentinel Park, where there's, like, older guys that, you know, that were also practicing with kendo sticks and stuff like that, you know. We couldn't fight for crap compared to them. I mean, they kicked the crap out of us. But as far as LARPing goes, you know, with, like, you know, plastic core foam weapons, we didn't know of anyone else that was doing that. We were pretty much like the first ones that I'm aware of in the LA area that were doing that. It wasn't even called LARP then. And so we were talking about this with the guys from Gwar after the show in the parking lot in their tour bus, and we made a deal with them, which was the next time you guys come back to LA, we'll book a show for you at our club again. But before the show date, we want to go to the park and have a LARP battle, us against you guys. If you win the LARP battle, we'll give you all of the proceeds from the door. Don't worry about the opening acts; they're going to play for beer anyway. We'll give you. We won't make a single dime off the show. We'll give you the entire proceeds from the door. Okay. But if we win the LARP battle, then you guys only get a cut of the door, or you guys play for free or something like that. I forget which it was, you know what I mean? And they were told all about it. They're like, okay, that sounds cool, yeah, that's fair. So we're supposed to have this LARP battle with Gwar, and then that was going to determine, you know, how much they were or were not going to get paid the next time they came to LA. And what ended up happening is the second time that they came back to LA on tour, they scored a show playing at Fender's Ballroom in Long Beach, and it just so happens that MTV was down the street filming, I don't know what they were filming, some shit down the street. And somebody knew that was at the show, and they ran down the street and grabbed the people from MTV and said, you have to come down the street and see this band. You're going to want to film them. You're not going to believe this band when you see them. They brought MTV down there, and MTV saw what was going on, and they said, dude, grab the cameras and bring them down here right now. We got cats. And they ran down there and they filmed them, and the rest is history. Gwar ended up becoming an overnight sensation, got a record deal, was on TV, blah, 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 and they didn't end up playing at our club. However, one of the guys was dating, I want to say it was Jude LaBelle from Bulimia Banquet, and he came, because we also did a Corpus Cavernosum cable TV show on public access. Long Beach, but we also took it around to all of the other public gas stations all over LA and Orange County and stuff. You know, we circulated the tapes around. We syndicated our show all over, you know, LA and Orange County and San Fernando Valley and whatnot. But we filmed it in Long Beach, and it would always mirror on that station. And we had her band on there, and she, I think, was dating one of the guys, like one of the guitar players or something from Gwar. And he showed up for the filming, you know, and she was like, "Oh, this is my boyfriend. He's in Gwar." And we're like, "Oh wait, dude, you're in Gwar. Remember us, man? Corpus Cavern knows we were the club. You guys played for 7 in LA. We gave you a big show." And he's like, "Oh my God, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it was a total tribute. Like, you remember? It's like, oh man, that's great. Yeah, cool." But yeah, unfortunately, we're never able to book him a second time.
And then what happened?
I met Brian Perera at school, who palled around with Chris Hazard, singer of the LA glam band Funhouse. Pretty popular band on the Strip, had a great album. And at the time, the two of them had the jet black Nicki 6 teased out hairdos with the bangs that cover their eyes so you could never see their eyes. You saw a nose and the lips. And they both wore bright red lipstick. And they were all into the glam scene, the Sunset Strip scene, which I really didn't know much about. I mean, I hung out on the Sunset Strip in the early 80s, going to see bands like Black Flag and 45 Grave playing together. And once the 80s glam rock and glam metal scene became a thing and took over, I wasn't hanging out there anymore. I missed most of that era on the Sunset Strip. Me and my friends liked the early Motley Crue, the first two albums. I saw Motley Crue in '83, Universal Amphitheater. It was awesome. Oh yeah! They went out on the road for 2 years straight with Kiss when Kiss was making their comeback from their disco rock failed era with Vinnie Vincent and Eric Carr.
Hey, all you rock stars, sweep the day away. You're okay. Hey, all you actors in your limousines, you're okay. Whoa, this is Hollywood.
Johnny on the Rock used to play Livewire and talk about how Motley Crue was like this new band that was kind of different. I still have it on a cassette, and they were basically considered to be, you know, part of the punk scene in a way, and we sort of viewed them as being like the new updated version of the New York Dolls. With a metal influence, which in a way kind of made them better, sort of. And Rat, they were called Mickey Rat, but we were into punk rock. You know, glam rock and glam metal scene grew and sort of took over the Strip, and the punk element moved more towards old Hollywood and elsewhere in LA and Orange County, and the glam scene took over the Strip. I stopped going to the Strip because I liked some of those early bands, but once the other bands started coming out, like Poison, Dr. Pussycat, Pretty Boy Floyd and all that, I didn't know anything about those bands at first. The Crew did their third album. They did the cover of Smoking in the Boys' Room, and we saw the video on MTV of Vince Neil dressed in pink spandex with pink lipstick. We were just like, oh my God, what happened to these guys? We thought it had become a pirate butt rock poodle stuff. Lightweight aluminum pop rock metal or whatever. We just didn't get it. We didn't appreciate it. It alienated us. 83 onward, we were also getting introduced to early Metallica, early Slayer, early Anthrax. We were like, dude, that's like real metal, and I don't know what happened to, like, you know, Motley Crue and these bands, but
whatever.
We just avoided that stuff like the plague. However, in 1987, was hanging out at Santa Monica City College with Brian Perera and Chris Hazard. We were friends with the guys from, like, LA Guns, and they turned me on to it, because they, you know, they liked old punk, and so, like, Chris Hazard had, like, a little MG sports car, and at lunchtime, sit, like, parked, like, on a side of a hill overlooking the ocean, and we would smoke out and listen to the first Poison out. And he was the one that first turned me on to it. And at first I was kind of like, well, I mean, this sounds okay. I wasn't totally sold on it, but he started to sell me on it.
And then what happened?
I started growing my hair out and found some guys through the recycler, and I ended up joining a punk metal crossover band that was basically a speed metal band that kind of sounded like Anthrax, but with some Black Flag influence.
Oh my.
They were based out of, the South Bay area where they had a pad that they rented a house and they all had rooms.
Whatever.
I ended up joining their band and we called ourselves Migrain without the E on the end because it just looked lame with the E on the end, so we dropped the E. So not to be confused with a band that came out later, like in the 90s or whatever, that was called Migrain. It was like what people refer to as hardcore style, where they do kung fu in the mosh pit or whatever, like new metal. We actually dressed like Droogs from Clockwork Orange, but we reversed the colors. And we used to play like at the KNAC Nights and tear it up. We had a guy named Steve that did all of our merch and stuff for us. We recorded a great sounding demo tape right away, had killer graphics, bumper stickers, flyers. We were putting a lot of money into the band. We were moving ahead fast. We got hooked up with Henry Spiegel from the Red Light District, and he started doing these side clubs, mostly because of our band, actually. He did one called the Trash Can. It was more of a thrash type club. And then he did one called the Black Bra, where he had strippers in black lingerie stripping on each side of the stage while the band played. And that club was a cross between glam metal, heavy metal, and speed metal bands all playing together, trying to kind of unite the scene, which kind of further introduced me to the glam metal scene some more, because we started playing with glam metal bands from the strip at clubs like the Black Bra, and played there with a band called Harem Scarum that the hot chick guitarist was at the time the girlfriend of Tom Araya from Slayer. He was there that night, and he loved our band so much that he jumped on the lighting board and started giving us like an incredible light show. We all wore different types of underwear with combat boots. And then I had like a bum trench coat. And we brought a shopping cart into the club and we put it on the stage. One of my friends got inside the shopping cart, laying on his back, and my other friend was pushing him around on the stage. It was big chaos for major principals, and we threw newspaper all over. Like, my friends dressed up like Captain Anarchy and came out there and introduced us and said, you gotta excuse this next band. Henry Spiegel, the promoter, found these guys outside in the alley getting drunk in the dumpster. He needed an extra band to play. They said that they had a thrash metal band, but they misunderstood. They thought that the club was called the Trash Can, so they just showed up in their usual bum attire to play for you tonight. So please excuse their appearance and forgive me for the misunderstanding. This is Migrain!
And then what happened?
So then I said, I'm gonna give this scene a chance, man, I'm gonna start going to check this out. So I started going up on the strips of the Whiskey and the Roxy and Gazzari's, and then later it was Billboard Live, and then the Key Club, and watching the Zeros and Big Bang Babies and Nelly Guns and Bastard Pussycat and Pretty Boy Floyd and all that stuff. There were tons of chicks hanging out at the Rainbow and drinking and partying, and I started really finding an appreciation for all of these bands, even the more bubblegummy ones. I was like, okay, I get it. It's rehashed version of glitter rock power pop from the 70s, just trying to be kind of pretty boy looking so they could get chicks, and that there was an endless supply of hot chicks that loved dudes that had the look, and they played in those kind of bands, where the bands were more bubblegummy or they were heavier.
Whatever.
Then Migrain broke up.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
We started playing on the strip with glam bands, and the glam crowd actually really liked us, especially the chicks, because we were like the big, bad, tough guy speed metal band. And every single one of us would be coming home with 8 different shades of lipstick all over our face and neck and chest. And what happened is, all the guys in the band got stripper girlfriends, except for me.
Oh, snap.
All got stripper girlfriends who were making great money. And these girls basically moved in, and they were all about paying the rent, all the power bills, paying for gas, paying for drugs and booze, and they were paying for rehearsals and merchandise at first as well. And those guys started getting into not just heavily drinking, but doing blow and stuff like that. And I was trying to get away from doing that stuff. I was trying to sober up and clean up my act and take the band more seriously, because I saw that it was the tail end of the speed metal era in the very early 90s. I saw that we had a small window of opportunity to maybe, if we played our cards right, get signed as like the last speed metal band to get signed and go on tour opening up for Anthrax. Basically, the way like in the glam scene, Pretty Boy Floyd, they're largely thought of as the last glam band to get signed, and then they just got dropped and the glam scene was over and major labels wouldn't sign anymore. I saw the same thing was going to happen to speed metal.
Fuck you! I was right! Fuck you! I was right! Fuck you! I was right!
And I saw that we had this small window of opportunity to maybe be the speed metal equivalent. If we played our cards right, we could be the last speed metal band to get signed and make it big, and then maybe they'll like drop us and use us as a tax write-off. Or
whatever.
At least we get $1 million video out of it. I had the vision. I saw that it wasn't too late. And instead of stepping up the game even more, those guys decided that they didn't want to go to work anymore. They wanted to let their stripper girlfriends support them. So they all quit their jobs. And that was fine at first until their girlfriends got sick of us coming home all the time with 8 shades of lipstick all over our faces and necks and chests. They got jealous. They realized that the band was going somewhere. They cut off the funding for the band. And so the rehearsals, recordings, and merchandise came to a grinding halt very fast.
Like a vampire giving me a blowjob.
And then what happened?
KNAC night on Sunday nights at Fashions. And they actually had bands where the Bullet Boys would play and stuff. And we had to dominate the dance floor as the only glam guys at that place too. And I met this smoking hot redheaded chick who was like a wild woman in the sack. Her name was Jody, and she used to wear a t-shirt that said Animal. She was smoking hot.
I think sex is better when you're in love. Could happen.
She ended up becoming my girlfriend. She lived in Long Beach. And Jody, albeit she was a smoking hot chick and dressed up in really rowdy, sexy clothes to go out to clubs and would put on Revlon Red shade of lipstick and paint her nails Revlon Red.
A sight to behold.
She was also the color lipstick and nail polish that I use too sometimes. I mean, come on. During the week, Jody was like a tomboy. She would just wear jeans and a t-shirt, no makeup, and tie her hair back in a ponytail. And she knew how to work on cars. So she was the kind of girl that would jack my car up and fix my brake and then make me a sandwich and throw me on the bed and go crazy. You know what I mean? Because she was like a wild woman in the sack too, you know?
It was amazing.
The deal is, one day she came to my house and took my high school class ring and put it on her finger and said, I guess I should get to wear this since I'm your girlfriend now, right? And I was like, okay.
Made a huge mistake.
What ended up happening was her dad died, and he had property up in Green Valley or whatever it's called up in Central California. And she was totally heartbroken. She lived with her mom and the stepdad, who were like old people that had a second floor apartment. The living room was her bedroom. You know, everybody deals with grief differently. She just completely lost it and broke up with me.
That's it. We're breaking up.
I'll move with you to Grass Valley, and I'll just get a job up there. She didn't want to do that. I was pressuring her to take the relationship to another level, and I went looking for her. I knew she'd be at this club one night. You know, because she wasn't answering my calls, I went to go confront her to get my high school class ring back, and she's sitting in a booth getting drunk with these two like Hispanic heavy metal dudes with long dark hair. She's getting ready to get double teamed. And
The extreme always seems to make an impression.
she refused to give me the ring back. Me and Mick Wicked got shit-faced drunk and high on all kinds of shit and drove my Dodge 2 E5 speed to an apartment in Long Beach. And I climbed up the outside wall. There was a skinny little like 1-inch or 2-inch pipe going up the wall. I pinched it with my fingers, but I shimmied up that pipe to the second-story window without falling and killing myself. Climbed through the open window, and I was in there rummaging through her jewelry as I'm trying to find my ring. Her stepdad comes in the room and turns the light on. He's butt naked. He opened the door, so I ran out the door and down the staircase and got in my car, and I was like, well, fuck her, fuck you too, and fuck her mom as well. And I jumped in my car all pissed off and wasted. Me and Mick Wicked made it back from Long Beach in like no time flat because I was punching it. It was literally like 157 miles an hour in my rattle trap. You know what I mean? It was crazy. Homeboy was just clutching the seat white knuckled the whole time. Move it! So I never got my ring back, and I didn't hear from her for like a year. I meet Greg Burial, and I decide we're gonna call the band Revlon Red. Throw the accent mark in there so that technically it's pronounced Revlon Red, and the makeup company can't sue us. The graphics have be like the Duran Duran, like Nagel style paintings or whatever. Like we had this French glam rock girl, and do images of like stiletto heels and red fingernail tips.
But why?
Because it's all very glammy to get the point across of why we're called that.
And then what happened?
One day I get a phone call and it's Jody, you know, and she's like, oh, I just haven't talked to you in like a year, just catching up. We have a little conversation. She sort of gives me a pseudo bullshit apology. In the conversation, she goes, did you ever get the band going? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. Well, so when did you decide to call the band? Well, you know how, like, you used to say if I was a good boy that you would like put on the red lipstick and the red high heels and paint your nails red and dress up for me, and I could fool around with you in the full, hot, glammed out image. Oh yeah! And you have to remember that at the time, Revlon had become sort of a ghetto brand. Where Wet n Wild is at now at the end of the aisle in CVS. It was the hooker makeup, and Revlon Red was specifically the color, cheap, street corner, I'll give you a blowjob for $10 type hookers.
Who the fuck is that bitch? She's with me. Who the fuck are you? I'm her husband. Well, that makes us technically related.
But you know, we were glam and we were porn.
I only wanted to prepare you.
I decided that calling the band Revlon Red, and there was a long dramatic pause. You're a fucking asshole.
Go fuck yourself.
And that was it. I never heard from Jody ever again.
Oh, snap.
So at first it was just a name, and we were just two guys with long blonde hair wearing makeup, dressed like glam rock Nazis, and wore iron cross necklaces. It had nothing to do with racism or us being actually into Nazism or anything like that. We just stole the SS uniform look and made it our own because it's a very powerful image. The Nazis had done studies about color combination.
Shut up and get to the point.
We went around telling people we were in a band called Revlon Red, but it was just a concept. It was just an idea, you know, and people loved it. Chicks ate it up. It was great. And from there, we got Kerry Highlander. He was one of the drummers in a short-lived lineup for the short-lived band LA Rocks. They had a recording or two, but he didn't actually play on any of those. He played a couple shows, and then that was it. He lived in Marina Del Rey or whatever. And then we started practicing in Playa del Rey and went through a slew of different guitar players. Gare Mossberg, that was the roadie and tech for Circus, the band Circus that was big on the Strip for a while. From Orange County that played guitar for us for a short time, that ended up bailing to Mexico and starting like a glam metal band. It was also like a cover band and like made it kind of big down there. The way we found those guys was we first had Mick Wicked and Kid Chaos from HP helped us write and record some songs to make a demo tape, but they didn't want to actually be in the band. So we used the demo tape to attract these other guitar players and get our drummer. Then we ended up getting this guy, Paul Spraggins, who was this great-looking blonde English guy who was going to school at Guitar Institute in Hollywood. He was like an amazing glam metal version of Yngwie Malmsteen. And we went back in the studio to spruce up the demo, and he did some leads on it. But then he ended up moving to Orange County. He joined the band Brat Prince, and then he died.
And then what happened?
Things fell apart between me and Greg Burial. I ended up running an ad in the recycler, and I found Rat to replace him on the bass. And then Jerry Gittleson connected me and Rat with Richie Dagger and Billy Mayhem, and we had a meeting at the Rainbow, and we decided to team up, and I was like, okay, but, you know, you can bring some of your songs along, but we're going to stick with the name Revlon Red. And they were like, okay, that's fine. We got our first real show at the Whiskey No Bozo Jam, playing with the Purple Haired Zeros and Heartthrob Mob and the Fizzy Bangers. Right out the gate, we were playing with, like, the cream of the crop of the local glam rock bands on the Strip. And the rest is history. We climbed our way up the ladder.
Chaos is a ladder.
We played tons of direct support slots for big crowds all over, you know, up and down the coast and in other towns. We even played in Vegas and Phoenix with tons of big name bands at the direct support slot. Met all of them, partied with them, hung out with Vince Neil, partied with Sebastian Bach, met Gene Simmons, lived the rock star lifestyle without actually being on MTV and having major label deal where we ended up owning some record label, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the rest of our lives.
Well, at least we were in the net zero.
Made some fat cash off of that.
And a Swedish Sleazy Scene that wasn't for you, and them like studying you, there would be no Swedish Sleazy Scenes. They did Jenna, basically, and followed you wherever you went to learn who to be.
Hell yeah, be buddies about shit.
Here's a question Layla had, and that is, she wants to know about your whole situation with Korn.
Well, Korn was basically, you know, my writing partner in Lost Energy magazine that I brought into my column, Prince of Darkness. He had the heads up on the whole metal, Korn type scene and all that early on. and, you know, turned me onto it.
Plus the fucking message is bomb.com.
As you know, we've discussed before, you know, I was there in the early days of Korn. I was there going to Tool in the early days of Tool. Not quite the same music, but I was also there in the very early days of Jane's Addiction, all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Watching those bands, writing about those bands, like before hardly anyone else was.
Whatever.
Like the early Korn show, they were kind of getting big by then. There was maybe 500 people at the show that night or whatever, and went to their place afterwards, and we're hanging out partying by the swimming pool, hanging out with them, you know, and turns out, like, Jonathan's like, wait a minute, dude, aren't you the guy that sings for that glam band named after the lipstick or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, Revlon Red, yeah, that's it, Revlon Red, the lipstick. Dude, our guitar player, Monkey, he loves you guys, dude. He goes to see you guys play at the Coconut Teasers, those Glitter Glam Fest nights or whatever. I'm like, what? And I call him over. He's like, oh, dude, you're the singer for Revlon Red. No way, I haven't seen you much time. I love you guys. You guys remind me of like early Motley Crue. You know, I never even knew there were any bands around that were like that anymore. You know what I mean? Until I heard about you guys and stuff, you know? And same story with the drummer from Flotsam and Jetsam. I had a girlfriend that I met on tour when I was out playing with Revlon Red in Phoenix, Arizona. I had met her before when she had come with Psycho Gypsy from Phoenix. They'd come out to play at the Teaser, and I'd met her. So when I went out there, I re-met her and ended up hooking up with her, and I stayed in Phoenix because it was the last date of the tour, and I ended up staying at her house, and I moved in with her for 6 months. Her name was Dawn. We started going to watch Flotsam and Jetsam play, and I had met Eric H.A. once or twice when he played in L.A. or whatever before. She was good friends with him and his wife, so she reintroduced me, and then I was like, yeah, I met you before, like in Orange County, that one time you guys played at that place. Oh, yeah, I remember you, dude. Oh, our drummer, like, he lives in North Hollywood, and he flies out to Phoenix to rehearse when we go do shows. And last time he lives in North Hollywood, he goes to see your band play at that Glitter Glam Fest at that Teaser club out there, and they called him over, oh, you're the guy, dude, you're the singer for Revlon Red, yeah, I love you guys, I see you guys all the time, man. I was always like, you know, how come you didn't ever, like, come up and introduce yourself and say hi? Well, because it was your night, dude, you know, and you're the star. I wasn't trying to come up and say, hey, I'm in Korn, or I'm in Flotsam and Jetsam.
Whatever.
Same story with Phil Lewis. During the era when LA Guns kind of, like, wasn't around anymore for a while, and Phil Lewis was, like, strung out and drunk all the time and using and whatnot. He would, like, be sitting in the back row at when we would play, like, at little dive bars, like 14 Below in Santa Monica, where he'd be back there getting totally loaded with a couple of chicks or whatever watching our band, and someone would say, like, hey, man, Phil Lewis is sitting all the way in the back of that booth checking you guys out. He said he loves you guys, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we'd go talk to him. You're like, oh, man, you guys are great. You know? Yeah, funny story. You know, it was some funny stories. Well, we definitely made an impact, and we had a good time doing it. We definitely had sort of a punk edge. We were kind of going for, because we didn't end up doing the whole, like, full-on glam metal, but heavier on the metal edge side of things, and instead it became more of like a glam metal punk crossover band. We ended up going for more of like a Hammer Rocks type of a vibe instead, and even more bubblegummy than that. We had songs that were kind of like Toy Dolls and Dickies type stuff or whatever, you know, mixed with glam or whatever. Power pop, Cheap Trick. We used to cover Cheap Trick songs, stuff. You know, I don't regret any of it. It was great. It wasn't really exactly what I wanted to do, but, you know, when you're in a band, sometimes you got to compromise with the other band members, you know?
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Because I'm a go-getter, and I stay focused. Even though there was a lot of stuff along the ways I tried to make Creeps, how, you know, I was the first singer, and I was only in it for a short while, because I was playing Revlon Red at the same time. I was working a full-time job. I had a girlfriend that I was trying to have a baby with, and I was doing drugs and drinking and stuff, and I was out of control. And I was having a lot of, you know, had too much on my plate, so they had to let me go.
You've made a huge mistake.
Yeah, I fucked up in a lot of bands. I fucked up in HP partying and the being late and the being too wasted and stuff, and that's why, you know, Gwar and Katz are always pissed off at me. But as the years went by and the bands went by, I started to more and more clean up my act and take my music career more seriously. Whereas all I kept doing was mostly attracting a revolving door of guys that were just fucked up and not taking it as seriously, or they were taking it serious at first, and as we went along, they got less serious about it and more into the partying and playing rock star. Not all of them.
I've made a huge mistake.
Some guys in Revlon Red were serious and not fucked up, and had been in other bands that had gotten as far or further than Revlon Red had. That's true, you know. But there were also guys that were in Revlon Red with me that were fuck-ups.
Well, yeah. Let's go!
Well, they came in not doing so bad, but along the way got a big head, partied out, and got fucked up and fucked it off, so...
Whatever. Basically, your band was vile but glam.
Feast your ears on that Spin Doctors mix.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that brings us up to some familiarity with Motley Crue and Rat and Wasp.
Get on with it.
Brian Perera and Chris Hazard of Funhouse, who introduced me into the later era of glam rock and glam metal in the later 80s when we were going to school together at Santa Monica City College. And I used to go hang out at Chris Hazard's apartment on Speedway in Venice, which he still lives in, and I still go over there and visit him from time to time. He's got dreadlocks like all the way to the ground now and always wears giant Rasta hat where he sings and plays acoustic guitar with these guys. They're good, actually.
And then what happened?
Migrain, my speed metal man, hooking up with Henry Spiegel from Red Light District and playing at his glam and thrash clubs, the Thrash Can and the Black Bronze, hanging out as Henry's guest at the Red Light District and turned on to the Glamour Punks and Now I Cat Scratch. Then the incident I told you about where I ended up, somebody stole my punk mix at a Migrain show, so I stole her Cinderella cassette, and then going to KNAC Night all the time and hitting the dance floor.
I mean, come on.
I met Greg Burial, who ended up becoming the first bass player of Revlon Red before I had even started Revlon Red. He helped me form it. He was the other blonde glam guy that finally one day we just talked to each other and we're like, dude, you got the moves, and dude, we could have two blonde glam guys work a team to meet girls and stuff and work them on the dance floor, and we had dollar drink cards because Henry Spiegel and Jerry Gittleson introduced me to Ruben in 1991 after Migrain was done, and I started writing the Captain Anarchy column for Rock City News.
And then what happened?
We made friends with the bartender at the Marina Del Rey Red Onion where KNAC Night was at.
Fuck yeah! Be buddies with that.
Shit. Jerry Highland, we called him the Highlander. Another blonde guy was hooking us up with the dollar drinks, so we were just meeting girls left and right and saying, hey, we got dollar drinks, we can get you dollar drinks all night long. Want to dance and hang out? And they're like, yeah, sure. And, oh man, that worked out good for us, dude.
It's a business opportunity where every day it rains pennies from heaven. Ta-da.
We were the only glam guys hanging out in Marina Del Rey. It was all metalheads and heshers.
I got an angle.
What angle? We were the Hollywood guys. And I was like, dude, we should start a band. You know, and he's like, well, I always wanted to play bass. And I'm like, all right, well, obviously I'm the singer. And then I came up with the name Revlon Red.
Plus the fucking messages, bomb.com.
We started out to be a glam metal band. We wanted to be like early Motley Crue, early Wasp. We had like Halloween. Not to be confused with Halloween. Halloween, like the holiday, who was a glam metal band that was more metal than glam. Crank. There was another like glam metal band that was, you know, more metal than glam. We wanted to look like the band that you would imagine would be playing at a bar in Bartertown, behind a chain link fence like the band Creature used to do. Only we would be wielding far future weapons like a lightsaber and a laser gun with a high intensity LED in it that I could beam people in the eyes with and blind us. That was the concept.
Now, why didn't you go back to playing punk or stick with speed metal or start up a new goth band?
All those styles had ran their course. Local level punk bands, there weren't any clubs that wanted to book us, and we were not big enough to get to play the Olympic Auditorium with social.
These nuts.
Goth sort of seemed like it had kind of ran its course too. A lot of goth clubs were closing down, turning into where it's just DJs, no bands.
I'm gonna clean the slate as much as I do.
Speed metal had basically ran its course, and we all saw it going out, and we saw grunge coming in and killing it, followed by new metal that just drove the last spike in the, you know, in the coffin, and rap metal and whatnot.
You should have reformed Peter Bristles and taken in the pop punk direction, reconnected with the Offspring.
And you're probably right, that probably would have been the way to go, but it just felt like selling out.
Nag, 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 nag!
And nothing against Green Day or Offspring, because they're good bands and they have good catchy songs, but they just were like too trendy sounding, and then they started the cascade of the poser pop punk bands like Anti-Flag, followed by like Blink-182 and Sum 41 and Good Charlotte, and it started morphing from cheesy poser fake emo.
Oh, shit.
The next wave was like the poser power pop bands like 5 Shades of Summer took on almost like a boy band element.
Excuse me? What did you say?
I didn't stutter. There's a clown called Ricky himself. His big claim to fame right now is some song called I Know You Like Black Flag. And it's basically trying to make people that are still into punk out to be posers, when he probably should just keep his trap shut.
There's nothing less punk than listening to punk rock.
Shut the fuck up! A whole slew of bands like that. And I saw the Offspring and Green Day were starting to cause bands like that to become a thing, and I didn't want to be part of that. It felt like it was just going to be selling out, you know what I mean?
You know what you should have done? Go Kart Records out of New York. Their compilations were sold on Hot Topic, but they did a lot of collaborations with Troma. Okay. You could have been a Troma band.
We could have went the direction of like DIY, raw punk, noisecore, grindcore stuff, but it just wasn't really my thing, because the thing that typifies that music, aside large, are the Cookie Monster vocals. And I don't do the Cookie Monster vocals. I'll do bits and pieces.
You know who signed to Go Kart Records?
Who? What?
The Lunatics, an all-girl fucking like awesome band.
Okay, all right, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and Toilet.
Right, Toilet Boys, yeah.
Right,
exactly. We could have went that direction. We could have been like a Toilet Boys type of band or whatever.
No. I'm just saying you could have been signed to Go Kart Records, because the Meatmen were also signed to Go Kart Records too. And you know about the Meatmen, they're awesome. The Meatmen's up there with like the Mentors or G.G. Allen, but without the
shit. Yeah, but you know, I mean, just none of that really.
Maybe what he needs is for you to pop your titty out his mouth and let the boy grow up.
Big time punk bands were playing at, it wasn't even an Olympic Auditorium anymore. They graduated to like the Hollywood Palladium. And nothing against Green Day or Offspring. I mean, I liked them before they were a pop punk band, but I got sick of hearing it on the radio. It just wasn't me.
And then what happened?
I lost a certain amount of friends and fans from my punk and goth and speed metal bands along the way. Not a lot of them, but I lost some when I started Revlon Red, because they were like,
Why the hell are you starting a glam band? That's like selling out.
wait a minute, how is it selling out? If I was selling out, I'd be starting a pop punk band right now, or a grunge band. Glam is on its way out. I grew up on Kiss and all the glitter rock, and then later the junkie rock of like the Stones and the New York Dolls and all that. And I liked early glam rock and glam metal like Motley Crue and Rat, and even some of the later era glam-oriented stuff was good and had merit. I mean, I like all of it, but early Guns' first 3 albums were fantastic. Great material. Early Guns N' Roses, great material. You know, it's undeniable. That's why those bands were famous, because they were good bands with good songs. But I never really tried my hand at it much.
The extreme always seems to make an impression.
We have an opportunity to start off on the ground level, but because of our connections, we can go straight to playing direct support for the Zeros and Pretty Boy Floyd and Bullet Boys.
Get on with it.
Yes, get over it! From there, those bands will probably start to kind of dissipate, and we'll climb the ladder.
Chaos is a ladder.
And climb to the top and take over the glam scene in Hollywood. What's left of it.
Give me a second, I'm gonna sip more of this smart veg juice.
When the scene comes back around in around 10 years or so, because all music scene genres seem to come back around, and that's exactly what we did.
Hey, all you rock stars, sweep the day away. You're okay.
There was just one problem with that. It's the one genre that never came back around. And it didn't come back in the same kind of grandiose level like other styles did.
What the fuck?
In my opinion, it wasn't selling out because we knew that we were heading into a scene that was on its way out. You know, we were going to struggle, keep it alive for the next 2 decades before we'd even have any kind of shot at really making it.
But do we make it?
Are you kidding?
We knew it was going to become an underground scene in Hollywood and around the world, and we would end up being on the top of the hill, and that's what we did. I'm not saying we were the best one. I'm not saying we were the only one. We definitely made a mark because of our tenacity.
I only wanted to prepare you.
And we had a lot of fun. And not all of our songs were sugar-coated bubblegum bullshit. I mean, some of them, yeah, were just about partying and sports cars and partying on the strip and chicks. And we had a lot of pseudo-punk, socio-political songs that were about street life in Hollywood. Good girls that ended up becoming hookers and porn stars and were found dead in an alley with a needle in their arm because they became a junkie in the end.
Welcome, folks, to Suicide City. We've got booze, pills, hookers, and dope. It's in. Bring your wife. Bring your girlfriend. Hell, bring them both.
We had songs about carrying switchblades and getting into fistfights and rumbles with machismo, jocko homo kind of guys that didn't like us for wearing makeup. The tough life in Tinseltown. It wasn't really punk rock, but there was some socio-political observation type songs. But unfortunately, the band didn't really go in the direction I wanted it to in terms of being a glam metal band that was heavy on the metal side.
Suicide City is a place that we all know. Suicide City. Suicide City is a place that we all go.
Richie Dagger kind of took over a lot of the songwriting and took the band in a direction that was more like a glam punk or glam pop punk type band, and some really sugar-coated bubblegum glam type songs along the lines of like Poison and stuff like that, which was fine. They're all good songs, and I had a good time writing, helping write them and record them and performing them and stuff, and people loved the stuff. But I would have preferred to have been more like Shout at the Devil and Kiss Creatures of the Night type songs. And I always felt like we didn't have enough of that, and our image wasn't tough enough. And I wanted to be more like the first Billy Guns album and stuff like that. And we kind of tapped into that, but we didn't really take the ball and run all the way with it, which to me would have meant more success for us, and I would have been a lot happier with the end product. But that's okay. We still made a mark, and we basically lived the rock star lifestyle. We didn't drive Ferraris, but we drove poor man's Porsches.
I want to come across as a pompous asshole, but not really seem like a pompous asshole.
But that was some pretty punk rock shit to do.
Oh, yeah!
Oh, you're selling out. You're going to become glam poodle boy butt pirate and get signed to Capitol Records and sell out and be the next Poison.
No, I'm not. It's over. The scene is headed into the underground. I'm going to become the king of the underground glam scene.
Oh, yeah!
Out of my poor man's Porsche, getting into all the clubs for free because I play in a popular band and I write for a magazine, meeting tons of chicks, hanging out with rock stars, getting free drinks. What's more punk rock than that?
Oh, yeah!
If I was selling out, I'd be joining a scene that was on its way up, like pop punk or grunge. That would be selling out. And most people got that, or if they didn't get it, I explained it to them, and then they went,
Oh, I see.
No. Glam's gay, and it's cheese waned and pop and
bullshit.
To this day, some of them don't even talk to me, want nothing to do with me. And I ran with that, and we had our goth twist. When we played as Revlon Dead, and we did covers of 45 Grave and Specimen, Alice Cooper, and so it was maturing into its own entity with the skeleton image, but mostly be more like a cover band that could play like Recess the Night to get hired. And we were starting to do that, playing at South Club Deviate, at the Paso Art Studios, and in the fetish scene, and at the Dragonfly for Goth Club and stuff. And we were actually getting paid to do it. And it was mostly originals at that point, just some covers. I wanted to develop more covers than originals and do that on the side. And instead of calling it Revlon Dead, I wanted to call it Bloody Kisses, which obviously I got from Typo Negative. That was the next step, but then the band fell apart.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
Before I continue, let's bring on today's sponsor. No thanks to you. Yep, no thanks to you. We don't get any fucking hype, anything that really matters. And
I focused more on my medieval and fantasy metal band Devil's Alley instead, and just ran with that, and that's what I've been doing since then, albeit we haven't done any shows for a few years.
Welcome to our guild for pirates, highwaymen, thieves, and those who face the gallows and men offer no reprieve. We hope you like our talking drum and homie honey and musty wenches that will serve your every need. So come along and join our crew and do not dilly-dally and follow us into the depths of the Devil's Alley.
Cheers! Ho-har! Be there any ale or rum left for our newly shanghaied guests?
Nay, but there's plenty of mead, McCongwell.
I made a huge, tiny mistake.
We reached the pinnacle where we were part of like the pirate metal, Viking metal, pagan metal, folk metal, epic symphonic metal, baroque metal scene. And we're starting to get really good slots on shows with bigger name bands that were doing that. But we had some problems with guitar players and went on hiatus, focused on working on the recordings, and then COVID hit and put everything on mute. So that's basically where I'm at now. So my intention is to resume once the COVID apocalypse, race riot, flash, World War III with China and Russia, etc. If we survive all that, to wrap up the recordings and relaunch the band possibly with some personnel changes, we will finally launch Bloody Kisses as our alter ego with originals and covers. Or if not, if those guys aren't into it, then I'll just get a separate lineup for that band, and that's my intention of what I'm going to do now. But first we got to see if humanity survives the apocalypse.
Just so you know how woke I am.
I'd go into detail, but you know, I'm just basically just trolling all of you anyway. So, whatever. I'd say special thanks to people, but I gotta go on Sub Pals and YT Pals just to try to get 100 views on here because the algorithm could... Soon to both Lost Anarchy magazine and DontWatchMojo channels. We got some badass graphic novel reviews.
Hell, it's about time.
Check out our Patreon and link in the description as you can tell. And support our cause. Shout out to our patron, Count Morivon, my homie from the Rainbow. I'm not gonna say what he does, but this guy is badass. Check out his channel. He does a lot of stuff on satanic poetry and other satanic Bible studies. And also a shout out to one of our other newer patrons, Janitor Jay. I've been a fan of his for years, and
talk about nostalgia, huh?
And of course, shout out to our usual patrons, Ryan Zacher and the Fly Attractor. Also, I hang out with rock stars and party with all of them and don't have to chill out because they're my friends. While you guys badmouth California while living in California.